And welcome to another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I am your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebush. How are you fellas doing?
Doing well, man. Zoo, my condolences, man, to your most important team. Happens, man. My team should not be where it is, but you know what? Sometimes a cute story makes its way through, man, and I'll get booted first round, don't you worry. But wait, last week of fantasy football, regular season, it literally went like that, snap of a fingers this year. It's been a fun year, hectic year when it's the injuries and all that, so maybe we'll do a little bit of a fantasy football recap as we get into fantasy football playoffs, kind of our winners and losers of the year. I know we did a mid-season, so I'm sure the guys and I will talk about that over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, my 1% is officially 0% after a couple of W's. My team got it done, and it was a hard-fought victory. I had to drop a 149. Shout out to Jamar Chase for getting it done for me. But the other teams, they played against some doo-doo competition. Their teams got the W, clinched their playoff potential seeding right now. So rest in peace, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Bijan. You guys going to be on just chilling, watching. And I'm looking at that roster, man. Chris Olave, Brandon Ayuk, man. Like, come on, man. This team is playoff worthy. But that points against, man. Couldn't overcome it. The highest points against in the entire league. Like, it was kind of tough this year, there was things I could have made as a general manager, aka Tyreek Hill. Should have drafted that brother over Bijan. They were 1 and 2 on my board when I was there, but took Bijan Robinson, the RB, over the wide receiver. That's a new move, man. OPOY, always take the OPOY over your rookie of the year, man. Rookie of the year, OPOY over rookie of the year all day, every day. So that was a strategic malfunction right there. But I got some leagues that are still alive. Shout out to Jalen and AJ Brown. I got some leagues still alive. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Got some teams still alive right now in the playoff hunt, and hopefully getting some bye weeks this week. That's what I need. Give me a bye week and put me in the Final Four, coach. Put me in the Final Four, coach, and let me get the W in some of these other leagues.
Yeah, same with me. Last week, the 114 team league I love to mention on this podcast. It was a fight to the finish. It was on a 5-game winning streak. Dropped one last week because of the buys. So now I got a 13% chance, and it's going to take a lot of – well, first I have to win, but it's going to take a lot of movement, which I'm not too confident about it because just looking at the matchups, the rest of them is going to be a toss-up, and they probably won't. Because I do think, even though everyone loves to talk about integrity in that league, I do think people are going to be playing certain players just to position themselves in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a topic in our group chat once this end of the week of the season happens. And in my other league, I'm fighting for the first seed. We're kind of tied, but I think he has more. I don't know how the tiebreaker is, but he is showing in the playoff bracket that he's number 1 and I'm number 2. So hopefully this week, if I can get a dub and he gets a loss, I can get the number 1 seed in that league. So like I said, fantasy trade deadlines are passed. It's playoff season, is super important. So good luck to the guys that are firmly in the playoffs and the guys that are not, maybe you'll draft more receivers next year.
Yeah, that's going to be my tactic for sure.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. We're definitely going to be talking about that on this podcast further down the road next year in terms of fantasy art strategy. So, but speaking of the NFL, man, heavyweights go down. We saw the Eagles get pretty much embarrassed on, I'm pretty sure that was Fox at the 4:15, 4:25 mark, East Coast time. They got de-pantsed, however you want to say that phrasing, by the 49ers. And I think a lot of people who have been watching this storyline since last year when Brock Purdy got knocked out, there was a lot of trash talk that the Eagles were doing. And the 49ers came in to prove a point, and they definitely proved it. And then with the Chiefs, man, I'm going to be honest, that was pass interference with the Packers. That was pass interference. They didn't call it. Home cooking, maybe some would say. But, you saw 2 teams that most people have picked to maybe go back to the Super Bowl struggle. So I kind of wanted to ask the guys out of Kansas City, who's in the AFC, and Philadelphia, who's in the NFC, which one is more likely to get upset in the playoffs? And people, I'm going to start with you.
Man. Yeah, that Eagles game, man. I mean, the game script was against them. But what showed it for me, man, I mean, they could not run the ball at all. And, DeAndre Swift, I think he had, 6 or 7 carries, 2.2 yards a carry. Hurts, 2.9 yards a carry. Obviously, we know he's getting a couple tush pushes in that situation, but not in this game, man. They put up 19 points. Jalen Hurts should not be throwing the ball 45 times in a game. He is not that type of quarterback. Yes, we know he has progressed as a passer, but he is a 30 to 35 kind of guy at the most. If he's in that 27 to 28 range in pass attempts and he's completing 23 to 24, I think that's the perfect game script for them. Big plays, running the ball, taking up time of possession. That's usually something they love to do. But little do they know, Kyle Shanahan. Sorry, I was speaking to about his father right there. But I'm sure his father taught him the time of possession is huge. And Debo was running the ball very well. Had that nice 20-yard touchdown. I have him and McCaffrey on a team. Oh, that team dropped 180 this week, man. It was just absolutely beautiful. That offense is scary. I saw something on ESPN today about Brock Purdy being an underrated MVP candidate. I don't know about that. But, man, I guess just kind of looking at the Eagles overall, I am a little bit less concerned because they were playing the 49ers. I think a lot of people have them as the top 2 teams in the league. They are about to face off again with the Cowboys this week in a huge divisional game. Because coming off that loss, I think the Cowboys are now only, a game back
in
the NFC East. Yeah. So, this is pretty much the season right here. Because if they do split and the Cowboys win this upcoming week, I don't know where the tiebreaker will end up coming up. I think it might be conference wins or divisional. But since they split head-to-head, kind of moves on, right? But I still think I'm leaning towards the Eagles over the Cowboys in the playoff situation. I just think they're a better coached team. I think their quarterback is usually more consistent. Then you look at the Chiefs, man. Sean, I forget if you called this as a potential money line from last week, but that Packers win, Jordan Love, he was looking nice. Zoo, you might have a little something cooking there, man. So, Christian Watson obviously really kind of came up on that hamstring right at the end of the game. I feel bad for him. He was carrying this team in the end with bowling ball A.J. Dillon doing his best at 4 yards a carry. But, man, I do think I'm a little bit more concerned about the Chiefs. And it's because they've actually become a better running team this year than they have been passing.
Been awesome.
Pacheco's had a great year. He runs like a madman. He's even got Clyde Edwards-Helaire running like him, which I never thought he could get a fire under his ass, man, and start running the ball relatively well. But for me, man, it's just that you're forcing a rookie wide receiver who is not a stud like we've seen with a Tank Dell, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson in years past. He's a solid, nice little rookie wide receiver in Rashee Rice, man. And you're putting pretty much the entire offensive burden on him in the passing game because they're just going to double team Kelce the whole time. And I'm sorry, man, but Travis Kelce should not only be getting 4 catches in a game. In that big of a game, I mean, you're losing on Sunday Night Football. You are feeding him the ball. So I think they have very off nights offensively, and that scares me more in an AFC playoff picture, that some of these teams can just get hot. We saw Trevor Lawrence before he got injured on Monday Night Football having an unbelievable game. That was probably his best game of the year. Mm-hmm. We've got the Ravens. We know what they can do on defense. You think Mahomes is going to cook them like he has in years past? No chance. Not with this offense. You look at teams like the Dolphins. I don't think the Chiefs could beat them in a shootout. The Bills, we're going to see that this week. So I'm a little bit more concerned because of the AFC playoff picture and the inconsistency of the Chiefs offense this year, man. Even though their defense has been great, they just got exposed by Jordan Love. So take that for what you will.
Yeah, not gonna lie.
I'm leaning Chiefs here.
You're leaning Chiefs? You're leaning Chiefs, huh?
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked by both games. Like, let's go to the first game. Not gonna lie. That money line pick I picked, embarrassing. Just embarrassing. They started off 6-0 in that game. I'm like, okay, they're dominating the possession of the football. They didn't really cash it in the red zone, but they got some field goals. They started off 6-0. I'm like, okay, it's pretty much what I thought. They're going to be dominating the game in the beginning. And then fell off a cliff. Brock Purdy. No, Debo Samuels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Debo Samuels has those games where you just forget, this guy is special. His yak ability. Like, I know Purdy got 300 yards, but a lot of it's just yards after the catch and Debo making some just unbelievable plays. And not just like he's like wide open. It's him creating offense as a running back pretty much after he catches the ball and just swerving for a touchdown. I believe he had like 3 total touchdowns. Like Debo Samuels, when he is healthy, like this guy's a legitimate weapon. Like we see Ayuk is the better traditional like wide receiver, but Debo Samuel's that hybrid man. So he's a little more dangerous. He's a little more dangerous. I was extremely impressed by the Niners, but we all know about the Niners. Like the reason they lost games was two of their best players are not healthy. That's pretty much what happened. Like when they have all their weapons are extremely top heavy, like their top level of talent is elite. So when you lose 2 of your best players, a tackle, a wide receiver, they're not going to be as good at offense. And when Brock Purdy got all his weapons, you got Vegas put him as an MVP candidate. I don't know about MVP candidate. Like, I think that is actually insane. If Brock Purdy's a plus 300 to win MVP, like, dude, he's just not an MVP quarterback. Like, his team is just extremely talented, and he's doing his part. Plays. Yeah, he's doing his part, but he's like he's in the average, maybe slightly above average, like tier quarterback. But I am putting him as MVP caliber, even though this year on quarterback play, no one's impressed me that much. Like your traditional guy.
It's not a clear cut.
Yeah, there's no clear cut. I'm always a quarterback's MVP because of the most valuable position in football based on just basic knowledge of the game. But my heart wants to go with Tyreek Hill because his ability of making Tua look that good. A lot of it just Tyreek. Like I'm watching that game. He just open every game. He's just open every game. Like time. It was brutal. It was brutal watching that game because I was playing against a Tyreek Tua stack. Holy cow.
That's scary.
A Tyreek, Tua, and a Devon A-Chain team. Holy moly. Not even the great Mike Evans and CMC could have saved my team, man. I was watching that game. I was just like, this is actually not happening right now.
It's the worst stack you could play.
Dude, I was like, Jesus. Like I was the number 2 team. That was the number 1 team. Oh, my gosh. You're cooking me with those guys. So, like, Tyreek Hill he's something special. So, like, my heart wants to give it to the guy that's potentially going to hit 2,000 yards. But I feel like in the history of football, when Cooper Kupp got the Triple Crown, he didn't get the MVP. So, if Tyreek gets 2,000, that breaks the record. He got an extra game, so you got to keep that in consideration. Like, I don't know if the voters going to vote him in, but voting a guy that's just on a good team and doing his role, voting that dude MVP, I don't think that's in the spirit of the award of carrying a franchise. He's not carrying a franchise. He's it's a team effort right now. Everybody's doing their part. But when you're MVP, you're carrying people. You're carrying the bums. You got wide receivers dropping passes. You got a running back that's not as good. This dude's got the best. You got Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, CMC. Like, holy cow. Like
George Kittle.
George Kittle. Yeah, I forgot George Kittle because that dude just blocks half the time. Like, his team is so loaded. So, like, not gonna lie, they were playing the best football right now, and they embarrassed the Eagles. And the thing is, the Eagles did play 3 games in the last like 14 days.
That's true.
So, based on health and energy, the 49ers were rested up. So, if you look at just based on award nutrition, like just like physicality, that makes a lot more sense in my mind. Like, just looking back, like this should have been actually kind of obvious. I completely missed this, but the amount of games that the Eagles have played versus the amount of games the Niners played in the last couple of weeks, that relative difference should have been like, okay, it makes a lot more sense why Vegas gave the Niners a 2.5-point spread on the road against the Eagles team that's only had 1 loss. So I'm like, okay, Vegas, you got me there. You got me.
They got me.
They got me good.
I didn't catch that either.
They got me good, but I'm like, that makes so much more sense after. I'm like, gee, I actually missed that. It was kind of like looking back up. That makes a lot of sense. Vegas, you got me there. That's why you guys are Vegas. But Eagles, I'm worried though.
Really?
Yeah. Because I look at the competition in the AFC. Because you know me, I picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, so I have high bias right now. So like the wide receivers, like you said, Rashee Rice. This guy getting 10 targets, I'm like, okay, like he's not that good. He's like like you say, it's a cute story. It's a nice little receiver. Don't really expect him to be a stud. Like he's gonna be the nice number 2 wide receiver option on a franchise that's actually an elite offense. And I'm just like, man, like Patrick Mahomes, his competition is just not that scary right now. if you look at the quarterbacks, like if you look at the quarterback, like people falling like flies, like Trevor Lawrence, high ankle sprain.
He'll be back.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
You think he'll be fine? High ankle sprain?
Yeah, he'll be fine.
I do.
Zoo, this ain't fantasy football playoffs. It's week 14. There's still 5 more weeks.
Okay. I'm just saying, high ankle sprain. That's kind of nerve wracking. You look at the AFC West, you got no team to worry about because somehow I don't get it. The Chargers just suck at football, man.
Yeah,
they scored 6 points. Not
making it.
Like, that was just the worst football game all year.
That is just embarrassing, like shameful. Like, I love Justin Herbert, but 6 points, brother. Come on now. 6 points against that team. So the AFC West, bunch of nobody. Okay, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars up, not even dominating. They're leading the AFC South and the high ankle sprain. I know you guys are just saying, oh, it's a high ankle sprain, whatever. That's worrisome. And then you got the Baltimore Ravens with the elite defense. That's actually one of the teams I'm like, okay, that defense is kind of scary. But Lamar Jackson, oh, man, this guy pisses me off. I don't know if it was as a fantasy holder or real life holder. Like Lamar Jackson, like I need to see something in the playoffs in the pass attack. Like in the regular season, dominating with a good defense and rushing the ball with Keontae Mitchell, the Gus Bus. Okay, you do your thing the regular season. Let's see in the playoffs with the aerial attack. And the Miami Dolphins just hasn't been a good team yet. They still haven't. They remind me of the Dallas Cowboys. Even like they when they win, they really win, man. Like you get a team like the freaking Commanders. Oh god, that game was an absolute joke. So they dominate bad, like the New York Jets. They beat them by 20. Like the New England Patriots, they beat them by 2 tutties. Like the Panthers, they beat by 20. So they could dominate these bad teams and outski them with their talent and their head coach. But against the good teams, aka the Chiefs and the Bills and the Eagles, okay, they lose those games. So they're in that same boat. I need to see something in the playoffs with their cute little finesse attack right there. So, and I still like the Bills, even though they're a 500 ball club. They might not make playoffs or maybe wild card action. So, like the Miami Dolphins, like I ain't scared of them at all if I'm a Chiefs fan, because that defense is not that good, and the Baltimore Ravens defense is elite, but the offense is not as good. So, I feel like the competition of the Cowboys and the Niners is a little tougher.
You're shooing in the Chiefs.
Yes.
Just very easily.
Yes.
You're not concerned with how they've been playing at all?
Yeah, they're 8-4, man. They're doing good. They're 8-4. They're doing good. They had some weird. The Denver Broncos loss is just bad.
Their offense, too.
It's not as good.
It's not what it is. Or what
it's not as good. I know Kelce is not showing like prime Kelce of last year.
Bingo.
That's the problem. Like he's definitely showing his age. Like when you talk about retirement, that means your body's hurt.
So what do you think the Ravens will do? Shut them down. Yeah. You can't run on them. They're the best run defense in the league.
Yeah, the defense is very, very scary. It's going to be a grinded out type game.
You could put Roquan Smith on Travis Kelce with corner and safety help, and then they're going to shut down Rashee Rice. Pacheco out of the backfield? Jerick McKinnon? They've won with worse. I get that. They have won with no-name guys carrying them at certain times. But I don't know, man. I know you got your bias showing through a little bit. But you got to remember, the Chiefs also lost to the Eagles, man. The Chiefs did lose to the Eagles. They barely beat the Dolphins.
Too.
They barely beat the Dolphins. They got shut down by the Broncos. They barely beat the Broncos the first time. They beat the Vikings by 7, the Jets by 3. The best win they have difference-wise is the Bears. They lost to the Lions. They beat the Jaguars 17-9. They're not dropping 35 a game like we've seen in years past.
Yeah, the offense is not as elite.
So I don't know. They haven't proved it. Like they're 8-4, sure. But like you said, the Jaguars are 9-3. Are you that impressed with the Jaguars?
I'm telling you, a high ankle sprain, man. High ankle sprain. I'm out. I'm
not talking about that. I'm just saying I'm not impressed by just seeing an 8-4 record. I watch them a lot, man. They're my entire fantasy team. You got to remember that.
They haven't been that good in the regular. I give you that. I give you that.
They do have the experience, though. They do have the experience.
Give me the playoffs, and I'll see Mahomes do some special things. I want to see him rely on his legs more. Because the offense, like he needs to be able to create more time. His receivers getting more open because their separation is not that good, and a little more easier passes because their ability to catch with difficulty making catches is not as good this year. So you need more little baby passes to these guys. So
absolutely,
Mahomes needs to play at an elite MVP caliber level. He has not done that this year, and they're 8-4.
They really needed to pay D-Hop, man. I'll tell you that.
Man.
They needed. They've been needed a secondary receiver. I've always felt like
absolutely
a little whatever. I think what I'm about to do is I'm gonna let you guys vamp for a little bit for a little bit. I'm gonna try to log out and come back in because I don't know what's going on with Firefox right now. So
Okay.
I'm about to log out and you guys just keep doing this first topic if you can.
Sure.
I'll be back.
Well, because the Trevor Lawrence injury I was reading, because man, he's running my work league team, man. I finally got him back. He's finally playing. The only reason I played him was Sam Howell being on a bye, because I had just been riding with Sam. He's getting me a consistent 20, just garbage time. Give me that fantasy. But T-Law, man, I came in, I was like, I think he might be back. Him and ATN, I got that semi-stack, the offensive stack, pretty much involved in every touchdown, man. And then, of course, he gets hurt. Now, I ran away last week. I dropped like 180. I need to win this week, and I need one guy to lose, and I'm locked in. I could still win on point differential even if we both lose, but I don't know, man. I know I said this last week. The Jaguars make me a little nervous. The past 2 weeks, man, proved me a little something, man.
Yeah,
that was a good game.
The Jaguars, like Trevor Lawrence has been having some of his best. I think his last like 3 games are like his best games this year.
Oh, for sure.
He's been closer to a game manager than a game carrier. But the last couple of games, like dropping points, like dropped 31 points, like 24, like 34 against the Titans, even though it's the Niners. That Niners game, like against an elite team that was fully healthy, like it wasn't even a competition. So talking about playoffs here, you ain't gonna be playing against the freaking Titans in the playoffs.
It's Zay Jones, man. I'll tell you. Hey, but
Christian Kirk. Yeah, see, Christian Kirk also. I forgot to mention Christian Kirk. So you lose Trevor Lawrence with the high ankle sprain, maybe like a week or two. I don't know how long this injury is going to last. And Christian Kirk, one of his favorite targets. I don't like that. So, like, the Mahomes' pathway, it just gets easier. And I forgot again to mention, the Baltimore Ravens are without Mark Andrews for the foreseeable future.
That's so true.
Lamar's favorite weapon, and Lamar struggles in the pass.
Does he have a chance?
Might have a chance if they make a deep playoff run.
Like if they make the championship game. Maybe.
Exactly. So that's very highly unlikely. So you're looking at all these things because I would say that the Kansas City Chiefs have been pretty relatively healthy.
Well, let me just say this. Thank you for reminding me about this because I had to add Zay Jones into the lineup, man.
Oh.
Had to do it, man. We were just talking the Christian Kirk injury.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah. That's a huge injury. Huge injury.
Yeah. One of the guys that I always talk about, Jeff, I remember he had Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk on his freaking league. And I remember he traded me Calvin Ridley. And at the time I thought like I won that. And I actually didn't because Calvin Ridley gave me maybe 2 games out of like 7. But I flipped him for DJ Moore and Devon A-Chain and whatever. So getting back to what we were just talking about.
That's all.
Yeah, Devon A-Chain though. Devon A-Chain
IR
was kind of on I thought that was going to be a bust because, you know, when he came back and he played 4 plays and it was hurt. And then the week after that, he was inactive. I was like, oh, God. But like say, and then DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, it's kind of been even because Calvin Ridley's been going off the last couple of weeks. I don't know how he did this last Monday night.
He only had like 3 or 4 catches. Yeah. He cooled off.
And Kirk's, like you said, that injury probably is bigger fantasy-wise and real life wise because he is Trevor's like security blanket, I feel like, but him and Ingram, but you know, watching Sunday, I think just with the Eagles, I didn't expect them to get destroyed, but I did kind of feel like the 49ers were going to win, even with the Eagles going up 6-0 because the Eagles, I don't like the teams, and I know it's sports and theater and everybody loves to talk crap, but like I hate when it's the whole like. Use context. The 49ers had their 3rd string guy. Like, come on. Like, they didn't have Purdy. They didn't have really a fair chance in that game.
They lost the backup quarterback, too.
Yeah. Like, stop. You can't beat your chest and be like, oh, like, just to me, and I'm not a pro athlete, but I'm just like, hey, I got out of that game. We beat them with a 3rd string quarterback. Let's get ready to go to the Super Bowl. Like, you know, have a little humility.
And I think, accept
you kind of can't brag when that happens. So when I was seeing how the Eagles were just talking so much junk, I was like, yeah, the 49ers are going to probably come in here and lay the wood because it's just you got to make a statement. And the thing about the 49ers is, to Zoo's point, they had those down weeks because they had their star players hurt. But when they played the best teams in the NFC, like Dallas and Eagles, they destroyed them. They destroyed both teams.
Yeah.
You know what it is?
I don't know how you can even pick against the 49ers right now.
You know what it is too, Sean? I forget who was talking about it, but they were mentioning a player that came into the San Fran organization like a year or two ago. I forget who it is. You know what? It might have been actually McCaffrey. And he said, when I walked into the locker room, he goes, it's just the vibe you get. They're just walking out with the boom boxes down the tunnel. Like everyone's just aggressively locked in. They buy into Shanahan. They buy into the defense. I think they all like what's their GM's name? John Lynch. Is he still? Is he still?
Yeah,
I think he's a great GM.
He's still there.
He's a great GM.
Okay, let's put an asterisk there. We got made some suspect moves with the draft. One of the worst trades in NFL history.
And Zoo, they're still kicking, man. Because he found Brock Purdy as the last pick, man. Okay. And he's gonna take credit for that. You know.
Yeah,
that.
not gonna lie. That's lady luck right there, man.
That is lady luck.
For the 6th, 7th round, I feel like
such a good quarterback.
Like Bill Belichick and his staff, like
I was just gonna say,
okay, we'll see.
Lady luck helped out the Patriots for damn near 18 years, man. So
that is true. They didn't know what they had.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, man. I mean,
that is true.
You can take that across all sports. Zoo, Nikola Jokic being a second-round draft pick, man. I mean, it just sometimes in sports you got to get lucky. So I just thought that was a huge testament to the culture that they have. And let's be honest, guys, you can look at a lot of teams around the NFL, and the good cultures from the bad cultures just by watching how players interact with each other, how they get when they're losing, how they come out at half, how they're coached. And I think the 49ers are just a top-tier class act organization, man. And it just shows on the field. So they are my right now, week 14, they are my Super Bowl pick right now. I did not pick them at the beginning of the year, but they are my Super Bowl pick right now.
They're the Eagles, but more consistent.
Yeah.
Like Purdy oddly is just the perfect quarterback for them because they have so much skill talent. He just knows how to dump off to his playmakers. But I will say with the Eagles, to Zoo's point, they played a lot of games and they've had a lot of tough teams back to back to back. And I think they're finishing off with Dallas.
Schedule.
Yeah.
So we'll see, and it'll lighten up after that. But with the Chiefs, it's like I said, I brought up with the Raiders, like what was that? Like when I saw that, I was like, what is going on? Like why are they down 14-0? Yeah, and I was just like, this just looks weird. You shouldn't be this way, right? And they came back. And to your point, P-Bush, if you look at a lot of their games, they haven't been the 35-3, 28-7, whatever. It's just been a lot of close games. And I know the NFL is a league that produces parity, and for most teams go 8-8, but I do think it's something to do with Kelce. Like you say, the last game he had 4 receptions for 81 yards, but to me, losing Tyreek was a massive deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tyreek being the game changer, you see what he's doing in Miami. And I know they won a Super Bowl, so everybody's like, what are you talking about? But it's like longevity. These guys want to win multiple, and with Tyreek being in his prime, having him on the field with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, like I think that would almost prolong. That would prolong Kelce's career because who's to say in the next 2 to 3 years Kelce just says I'm done? Like because Kelce kind of strikes me as a guy who's he doesn't like. I think he's got his rings. He's he's in the record books. He doesn't seem, and I don't want to say this because I don't know his personality and if he's a competitor or not, but he doesn't seem like the guy who's like walks into the room and needs to be recognized as the greatest tight end of all time. Like I think he's just cool with being Travis Kelce, dating good-looking girls and having a good life, doing his podcast. Like I think he's happy that way.
He's chilling with his brother.
Yeah, he's wired that way. I feel like just looking from the outside.
Got paid, the ring, the accolades. To your point, he's already got everything. He's not Tom Brady. And all right,
Mahomes is going to continue to keep playing. So like it's more of a clock on Kelce, but I think them missing Tyreek, Rashee Rice, you can't depend on the rookie receiver, and Mahomes has been really good, but. Like you said, to Zoo's point, there's no standout quarterback this year. Like, I honestly think if Dak beats the Eagles this week handily, he's probably going to be right there in front. Because he's had an amazing year, even though he's played a bunch of tomato cans. He's had an amazing year stat-wise. And if he beats the Eagles, I don't know if it's a Sunday night game, Monday night game, whatever, but on national TV, He might have a chance.
Oh,
he might have a chance to sneak the MVP. Because, like you said, you're not going to give it to Purdy. You're not going to give it to him.
I ain't giving it to Purdy. I ain't giving it to Dak after that Niners game. I can't get the Niners game out of my brain.
That was like months ago.
Brutal. That was even if he lost by a nicely competitive game. Okay, it happens. It wasn't a game. It wasn't.
Who else though? Who can you give it to though? Like Tyreek is maybe the only option.
It might go positional this year. It is.
I might say screw the QB position, man. None of you guys caring.
If they get the number 1 seed and Tyreek gets to like his 2K or whatever,
if he has 2,000 number 1 seed.
Oh, yeah, he might get it.
Okay, all right. Now let's put it this way. What about CMC? He's got how many touchdowns this year? 17?
No.
18? Total.
What's the record?
I don't even know.
I shouldn't even ask that.
If this man drops 25 touchdowns.
Let's see. He has 12 rushing touchdowns. 12 rushing touchdowns.
He's got to have at least 5 or 6 receiving.
What is that?
Because
five receiving touchdowns.
So he's got 17
touchdowns right now.
17 touchdowns. He's on pace for at least 22 or 3.
28 is a record.
If he gets 20
LaDainian.
And I'm not saying he's going to break the record. That'd be absurd. I mean, you have to score 2 a game for the next 5. But if they're the number 1 seed,
that could be possible.
him and Tyreek should probably be the 2 best. It's just that you look at the 49ers and you're like, okay, well, CMC could have an off game if he does.
Yeah, he could have an off game and they could beat you in the air. Or
he doesn't have off games. His worst game is like 13 fantasy points or something like that.
Yeah, he still got 1 touchdown, I think.
And he still scored. So, to your point, this might be the year where positional is considered a bit higher, but I wouldn't put my money on that.
No, because they love to give it to a quarterback. That's just
exactly. But if it goes,
and I'm telling you, if Dak played for the Houston Texans, this is a moot point. But him playing for America's team and on the big stage with the Eagles, they're looking for a reason to give it to him and it being a whole. Because then you think about it,
next 3 weeks. Next 3 weeks.
For sure.
Because he has pretty decent stats, too.
Yeah. Oh, he has really good stats. The Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Lions. If you win, I would say 3 out of 4. While being the reason. I don't want the defense. Yeah, I'm talking about MVP. Being the reason this team is winning because their offense has changed. In the beginning of the season, it was not an aerial attack. Like I remember, CeeDee Lamb was not getting these massive target shares, and Dak Prescott wasn't chucking the ball as much, worrying about the interceptions. That was a huge focus point this year coming this season. Let's focus on limiting interceptions so that the passing was less aggressive. But then they realized they're not doing as well, and they pretty much changed their offense to be a full-on aerial attack, and Dak Prescott's just chucking the ball out more, and they've been winning a lot more games, and CeeDee Lamb exploded for that reason. He's having a career season this year.
Brandon Cooks, Jake Ferguson, too.
Yeah, all these guys been getting touchdowns. All these guys been getting their money's worth on offense right now based on the new offensive scheme. But Eagles, Bills, and Dolphins and Lions. There's your chance, Dak. There's your chance. But because if I see a huge regression against these elite teams, the potential playoff teams, fuck out.
I'm out. Yeah,
you got to show up against the good teams, like the Commanders. Your best win is the Seahawks, and they might
barely won that one.
Yeah, they barely won that game, and Seahawks might finish as
that was a great game,
500 team. Oh, great game!
It was
best Thursday night game all year, but. That team might be a 500 team at the end of the season.
Hey, you forgot about the Bears-Panthers game, man. Come on.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I wouldn't be mad if he won MVP, but I would be a little shocked because you're passing over guys that, sure, maybe aren't having the greatest of years for themselves, but Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, right? You're passing up on those guys. Josh Allen's not in the discussion.
No. I think stats is going to be the reason why.
That'd be the only reason
Hurts or Lamar might, especially Lamar. I think stats wise, there's probably a reason why he won't get it. He would have to go nuclear for him to even have a sniff at the MVP, just because. And 2, he's 1-1. It's kind of, I don't know. But speaking of quarterbacks, because we spent a long time on that topic. I was telling the guys, man, I was just going through Moneyline bets and trying to sift through teams, look at playoff positioning, and see who's in the playoffs and who's not, and. I was telling them, man, there's a lot of teams that are in the playoffs whose quarterback situations are not the greatest. And there's a few that came to mind, and I was like, man, if they're never going to say it to their fans. They're never going to say it. The coach is never going to preach this to their team. All the coordinators they're all on one accord. They're speaking like, hey, we're in the playoffs. Let's keep this momentum, because with the NFL, it's like kind of day by day, week by week. You're just fighting to get to next week healthy, and you're trying to actually get into the playoffs, because a lot of things you get a lot of, I think there's a lot of incentives and a lot of things that happen in people's contracts, and
For sure.
personnel, people get raises, like stuff happens when you make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, they're keeping that as the main thing. But there's always one or two personnel guys, and there's probably draft guys who are sitting there like, man, we're like in the playoffs, but there's this guy in Idaho who we can get in the third round, and he's a guy. There's a quarterback, like there's a running back here, like, but based off the draft like positioning, they're just not going to be there. So I wanted to ask the guys, out of the few teams in the playoffs, and they could pick which one, which team do you think is not as excited being in the playoff hunt currently? And Zoo, I'm gonna start with you.
Man, it's easy team to pick on because this quarterback is god awful to watch, man. He did get injured, so rest in peace, Kenny Pickett. But man, the Steelers, that offense is atrocious.
Yep.
It is so ugly to watch Steelers football. Like this team, like I don't know how Mike Tomlin does it every year, but he's gonna be above 500 again this year. Like they're just on pace to do that again. Like even though like it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, like he was on a third string quarterback one year and still finish above 500. So they're down to Mitchell Trubisky now. Like this guy's taking over. Obviously, Kenny Pickett out with a lower body injury. But nothing's gonna change because the QB situation does not matter at all. They're doing this weird Jalen Warren, Najee Harris two-headed running back, like so ugly to watch. And then you see Pickens and Deontay Johnson having hissy fits on the sidelines. Wide receivers aren't happy because the quarterback situation is awful. Had to get rid of the offensive coordinator because the offense is just absolutely atrocious. Defense is trying their best. CJ Watt is trying his best. Like my goodness, they just need a quarterback. Like ever since Big Ben retired, it's been god awful. It's been god awful. Like you look at the amount of points that this team has scored. The only teams that scored more than the AFC are the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. Those are the only two teams and those teams are, oh my God, just an absolute disaster.
Bottom of the barrel,
teams, man. Like you're talking about 2-10 teams and a 4-8 team. Like those are the only teams they have scored more on offense this season. Just think about that in the AFC. So your competition, right? Like the defense trying their best, and the defense like only could do so much looking at that offensive situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, this draft now. Couple of potential elite quarterbacks, but who knows? Like probably most of them probably might bust. But you got to be up. You got to be there throwing darts, and you got to be having a higher pick that have a higher accuracy of hitting these QB targets. Because I'm sick of watching the Pittsburgh Steelers story. Q story, win your games, make the playoffs, lose. Like you're gonna lose in the wild card game. Like I've seen the story before. Like, come on now, I'm done. Like Tomlin, I know you want to keep winning. Because that's a pretty impressive coaching resume. Like never below 500. Like that is incredible. But sometimes you just got to take an L, man. You got to take the L. You got to lose the battle to win the war, man. Because they ain't winning no Super Bowl with this QB situation. At least you trade for a quarterback, or I don't know what you could do, man. Maybe trade for a Justin Fields this offseason. I don't know. I don't know because. Ain't going to be through the draft to keep making the playoffs and having these late picks because all the elite prospects can be taken early because, my goodness, this is a top-heavy draft for the QB situation this year, and hopefully this draft is a lot better than the Zach Wilson and Justin Fields draft, Mac Jones draft. So we'll see what happens, but I'm telling the Steelers, man, if you want to win a Super Bowl, and Steelers Nation is about winning Super Bowls, got to get a real QB in the room.
It's funny you say that. They're kind of like a worse version of the Niners, man. Their organization is great. They're very well run. They have great talent. They're just missing that one piece. We know what TJ Watt can do, right? On that defensive side, they've always had great secondary play. I do actually like their running back room. Do they need to figure out who's the real guy? Yes. But they're both talented. Najee's not a scrub, as a lot of people. He's actually had he's had a solid flex year, Zoo, in fantasy.
He's got saved by some touchdowns, that's for sure.
Saved by some touchdowns. Jalen Warren has broken off some big games, actually. He's very explosive. I'd consider him kind of in that 2 years ago, Tony Pollard area for switching up an offense. But, man, yeah, you're right, man. Watching Kenny Pickett. And even though I love to bring up Trubisky on this podcast, man, he just ain't it, man. He's a perennial backup.
Yep.
That's the best he should be at this point in his career. It's crazy to think they're in their 7th year, him and Mahomes at this time. That just blows my mind at this point.
Oh, my God.
But that's a good pick, Zoo. I didn't even – well, I put a list of 5 teams together, Steelers being one of them. The Falcons, I think, is an easy pick because they are winning the worst division in the NFL.
Yeah.
They're 6-6. Sean mentioned they have a very talented team on both sides of the ball, but Desmond Ridder ain't it. Heineke's tried to come in and do something.
He was awful.
They might be the team to pull the trigger on Justin Fields.
No, please.
But I'm actually looking at another team in a division that actually has 2 teams that I think should be considered, and that's the NFC West, man. I want to know what the Seattle Seahawks are going to do. They're bought into Geno Smith after last year. He had an unbelievable year. He paid his dues for 10 seasons pretty much and got his starting role. Unbelievable last year. He's been back to mediocre. He's had some big games. He had a hell of a game against Dallas.
Yeah, that was the best game of the year.
A good defense. That was easily his best game of the year. But, man, with that talent that they have.
Dude, his weapons.
DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett is just he's an Adam
consistent.
Thielen, man.
Yeah, he's like a worse version. Yeah.
And then you got Smith and Jigba, who has shown
JSN
major
awesome.
flashes.
He's awesome.
You got Kenneth Walker, who's obviously been injured. Zach Charbonnet
has been
good
a solid rookie. Yeah.
You know, a team like the Seattle Seahawks, if they are buying into Geno Smith, if I'm them, I'm that team actually trading up to try and take Brock Bowers to solidify at the tight end position, because that's where they've always kind of been missing. Noah Fant was not the answer. I know he was part of the trade package with Russell Wilson. But if they want to go quarterback, they have to cut off Geno because he's not going to go to being a backup. He's not going to be going to a backup again. And, you know, the other team in that division is Matthew Stafford. Where is he at in his career with his injuries? Are you going to waste Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams?
He's awesome.
Tyler Higbee, if you want to throw that in there. He can have a big game if he gets targeted a lot. So I'm looking at that NFC West, and I'm wondering these 2 6-6 teams that are in an NFC that has a pretty open bottom wild card race right now with the Packers, the Vikings, and then those 2 teams. I think both of them got to consider trading up. I would lean a little bit more towards the Seahawks because they might have a bit more capital to trade from that Broncos trade with Russell Wilson. So, you know, I can't be buying into Geno Smith at this point when you have such good young weapons, man. I mean, we saw what DK Metcalf could do when he had his virtuoso game.
Yeah. So explosive, bro.
Like, so explosive. Yeah. I mean,
he should be like putting up AJ Brown numbers.
He should be. He is AJ Brown.
Right? They're built the same. Went to the same
probably
school.
Faster and more explosive.
Yeah,
he's faster. Yeah. So that's a team that I'm considering. I do think the Falcons will be the team to pull the trigger on making a move for a quarterback, but I'm just more hell-bent on the Seahawks because I do believe in Pete Carroll. He's a great coach. A lot of people buy into him. They just have to be willing to make the move and pull the trigger for another quarterback change in a 2-year span. So it's just something where you're considering it as a GM. Is this a bold enough move to save my job? Or are we just going to kind of coast at that 500 level for the next 2 years?
Yeah, I think Pete Carroll also he's kind of in his Super Bowl happening years ago. But I think anytime you deal with a Super Bowl winning coach, they kind of get to do, even though I guess I'm not even sure if he's a GM or who's GM there, but it's like he kind of just gets to do whatever he wants to do because they've drafted so well and they've kind of always been in the playoff hunt. So it's kind of like, oh, we'll just have Geno's the safe option. And it's like you don't want to take the boom or bust of drafting a rookie quarterback because you truly don't know what could happen. Like a rookie quarterback could either end up like CJ or they could get you out the league like Trey Lance, even though Kyle Shanahan's not out the league because he got, like we said, lucky with Brock Purdy. But, you know, the rookie quarterback is always so combustible. So I feel like sometimes coaches is like, if we got a guy like Geno, let's just ride it out. Because like I said, you can't hit quarterbacks. You can't touch them. So it's just like a lot of these guys are lasting longer, but I do agree they need to get a difference maker there. Michael Penix would be a great fit, and that's just because he's up there in Washington. But you know, I was looking at the Vikings because I love Kirk Cousins, but considering his age and his injury, especially with the Achilles,
gonna be 36.
I know I think they got Hendon Hooker, but I mean, I know he's coming off ACL. We don't know, and it's kind of almost been a year. So maybe sometimes with quarterbacks you hear a little bit of buzz of like this guy's coming along. Like I know they got Josh Dobbs, whoever, but Hendon Hooker's the dude that's coming out next because, like I said, he's probably right now in a mode where he can probably throw the football around. He probably just can't run and do dropbacks yet. But they are a team too with Addison, Hawkinson, Jefferson, like elite of the elite pass kicker. Like you can argue Hawkinson has been one of the better tight ends this year. Jefferson, we know who he is. Addison is a solid number 2, and I think next year could be almost a 1A to Justin Jefferson because he at least on my fantasy team, he's always putting up at least 10, 15 points. He's getting open, and in that Bears game, he could have put up a couple more points. He dropped a couple passes, but man, I tell you, like they're a running back and a dynamic quarterback away from being really scary. Because I was under the impression, like, when Kyler was on that whole buzz about him coming back with the Cardinals, I was like, man, if he just got in Minnesota with them and him running around and doing all that stuff, and then, we see Madison, what he is. He's a nice backup running back. I don't think he can handle a full load of like, 20 to 25 carries. If they can, running backs come out every year. If they get a dynamic running back, that offense, they could be something serious. And I think, Kirk, pre-injury, I thought he was a good quarterback for them because he was, as much as we kind of think he's kind of in that above average range, like Justin Jefferson was putting up crazy numbers, and you can't do that with a quarterback who can't get you the ball. Because I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks that could be that you could switch out and just be like, okay, Justin Jefferson's still going to be putting up the yards and the catches that he's putting up. So Minnesota is definitely a team I was looking at. Like if they can get a dynamic guy, like they're not going to get Caleb, they're not going to get Drake, but if they can get a Michael Penix, someone in that range of quarterback, that could definitely happen. Because with the Steelers, it's so obvious. Like Kenny Pickett was the hometown kid. He was there for 5 years in Pittsburgh, the state college. Like it's just natural. But like I've been saying this for a while. If you're wearing 2 gloves throwing the football, I'm just out on you. I'm good. I'm good on that, man. Nobody's done that. Like people have done it during inclement weather. I get it. Like I'm not trying to, body shame, I guess you could say. It's anybody who's throwing with gloves on when it's like a torrential downpour. But when it's 75 degrees outside and you got on 2 gloves running around throwing the football, I'm good. Like I'm not big on that guy. I'm just not thinking he's a franchise quarterback. And you would think with the Steelers, because if you just think about their history of what they are as a franchise, when I think of the Steelers, I think of toughness. And it's like your quarterback's got on 2 gloves running around there. You don't think the fans are like, oh, what the hell? Like, yeah, like they don't think. I think they're just like, we're good. So, with Tomlin, the days of Big Ben are long gone, and somehow they just keep figuring out how to win. So, like you say, and the Rooney's is such a not weird, but there's such a different ownership where they have patience and they're not going to fire Tomlin. So there is no pressure in Pittsburgh. Like they just don't fire coaches. That's not what they do. So I feel like that's part of the reason why you take someone like Kenny Pickett, because he's safe. And if he doesn't work out, it's like, oh, well, we'll just figure out the next quarterback to find. But to me, if you're trying to get back to a Super Bowl, you need to get a more dynamic guy. Like they don't even maybe have to draft somebody. They may is there anybody in the league that's like a backup they think has potential? I don't know who that is, but it's like maybe it's somebody that's more dynamic.
The Bengals quarterback right now, he looked kind of good.
Jake Browning. Yeah.
Jake Browning. He kind of looked good. I don't know if I'm overreacting, but he kind of looked good.
Maybe.
He looks, but they won't trade within the division.
Yeah, they won't trade in the division.
But for other teams, it could.
If they had Sam Howell, they would be all right. And the Washington's not trading him, but if they had Sam Howell, I think.
Yeah, because the Steelers actually know how to draft an offensive line, man.
Yeah, that too. Sam Howell can get beat the hell up.
He's running for his life, man. He's running for his life.
Yeah, he really is. But there's a lot of teams right now. The Raiders are another one. The Raiders are another team that I think could be considered. Raiders, you got Vikings in there as well. There's a lot of teams right now that should be losing more.
Who knows? Like I say, the draft's coming up. There's a ton of guys, but every year guys come out. There's only 1 or 2 that's gonna hit, so you just never know who it's gonna be. We have no idea. So hopefully these teams that are in the playoffs, they're scouts. They're mining down in that second and third round and seeing if they can conjure up a quarterback prospect that's worth their while. So we'll be, tuned in for that. But right now, shifting into our Week 14 bets.
There is no nobility in poverty. I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time.
I'm gonna go ahead and let P. Bush start this off with his anytime touchdown bet.
You were just saying about things we don't know. That's just me when it comes to picking anytime touchdown parlays, man.
It's a hard bet, man.
It's so hard. Mostert, he scored, and I thought the game script was going to feed right into that. Obviously, A-Chain would have been the better, but Mostert still got his. I think they were trying to get A-Chain's feet back underneath him. I think
you got Swiss cheese offense and the Commanders.
Swiss cheese offense,
great team to play.
Yeah, just get some practice reps in A-Chain, And Mostert's like, give me a rest. I got to prepare for the playoffs.
Yeah, you got to prepare for the playoffs.
Yeah, but and then Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously Demont probably would have been the better pick there, but I just thought Gibbs was going to have more usage and more explosive plays. And it was actually a great game against the Saints. They were up for a long time. Saints ended up coming back.
Yeah, high-scoring game.
Yeah.
But then they ended up having to kind of throw the ball a little bit more in the end with the Saints pushing up against them, against that door. So tough one this week. I'm going to go with a bit more what Zoo would like to call blue chip stocks right here, man. And it actually, guys from the two teams we were talking about earlier. Tush push, Jalen Hurts against the Cowboys, man.
There you go.
It's going to happen. He got one last time they played a couple weeks back. Actually had a really good rushing game on a yards per carry basis against the Cowboys. And just the grittiness, the rivalry. He is getting Dallas Goedert back this week. A lot of people forget about that too. He's coming back already from that broken forearm. That's just another guy that a linebacker is going to have to cover and not be able to spy Jalen Hurts, man. So a little bit there. The other guy, I think he's going to have his breakout week this week against his Buffalo Bills team that he loves to feast against. Travis Kelce scoring against the Buffalo Bills this week, man. I think this is going to be a shootout game. I think the Chiefs are pissed off losing on primetime television.
Yep.
And you better believe that Travis Kelce is pissed that he only caught 4 balls. He had 1 or 2 drops. I understand that. That ain't happening this week, man. Jalen Hurts, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, my boy Hurts, man.
Of course,
man. That's the one thing you always count on. Jalen Hurts at the goal line. Like, sorry, DeAndre
It's like
Swift.
Derrick Henry.
Sorry, DeAndre Swift, man. You ain't ever scoring a touchdown.
Never. He's never finding the end zone,
It's going to have to be through the air for him to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way. Like he ain't ever getting a rushing tutty, man. But yeah, not gonna lie, the Eagles last week. Watching that game, I'm like, it was awful, just awful, just horrendous.
Vegas got you, Zoo.
The Vegas got me good, man. They looked at the time, like, the number of games they played, man. I didn't see that. I was so enamored with the beauty of the Philadelphia Eagles offense and winning all these clutch games. But it looks like they ran out of luck against the Niners, who all they do is beat good teams. That's all they do, is beat good teams, man. So now I'm gonna pick a good team that's playing against an awful team.
There you go.
Last team I picked 2 good teams, so I already said it was like a 50-50 game, but more after the results, more like a 90-10 game, man. That's pretty much what the Niners made this game. But this is some Swiss cheese, man. Chicago Bears, man. Detroit Lions -3.5, man, at the Bears. Are you kidding me? Give me the Lions all day. You talking about the Chicago Bears? When they lose games, they lose by 4 or more every single game this season. And you look at the Detroit Lions, the only game that didn't cover the 4-point spread in all their wins was the Kansas City Chiefs. And that was a miracle. That was the game they should have lost, but the KC wide receiver dropped the pass for the win. So I don't really even give them that first victory. So you give me this Detroit Lions team that got lucky. I'm telling you, they got lucky in that one game against the Bears when the Bears completely dominated them. So it's on alert now. Psychology, there's no underestimating the Chicago Bears when that team's almost beat you. And you had a big motivational speech after that. Oh, we got lucky, but we played hard and stuff. The Chicago Bears, come on, dude. And they're coming off a W. You forgot, it's been a while since they played. But they came off a W against the Minnesota Vikings in a disgusting game, like 12-10. Like, that game was god-awful. You think the Bears are going to win 2 games in a row? Stop it. Against 2 divisional opponents? Stop it. I love this bet this week. I love this bet. I get to pick a good team against a bad team, and it's only 4 points. Give me the Detroit Lions, who got more to play for. Like, the Bears playing for picks, Lions playing for the playoffs.
I agree. It should be the right bet, but one thing you got to look at, Jared Goff does not do well in Soldier Field, man. You want to know why? He can't throw the ball with those wind gusts, man. That's been his issue. He's thrown more picks in Soldier Field than most other stadiums in his career, man.
Do you know why? I would have
Jahmyr
went with this.
Gibbs?
Yeah, I'm talking about the running back. I'm talking about David Montgomery revenge game again, because David Montgomery seems to have a little extra pep in the step against the Chicago Bears, and at the goal line, he's the goal line back, baby.
Just
So
remember, Zoo, they should have lost that game at home, man. That's all I'll tell you, man. And you know they should have lost that game.
I like this. Wait, why are you gonna pick against the Bears? Against the Lions and only 4 points?
Hey,
come on.
Y'all know I'm a Bears fan. Obviously, I obviously think they should lose this game for all intents and purposes. But I do not like betting on the Lions against the Bears. I just don't. They don't play them well ever. Even if they win games, they don't play them well. It's just a fact. They just don't. So I don't think it's as easy. I thought you were gonna go with something way easier than that, man. Come on, man. You don't pick division games. Everyone knows that.
Division games. Listen, he's betting against Lake Michigan wins and the Chicago Bears defense, man. I don't know if that's smart.
It's gonna be a cool. This ain't no dome, Zoo. 20 degrees on Sunday, man.
The dome's coming later, but not right now. Especially if they keep fields. The dome's definitely coming. I don't know if Caleb Williams ends up going there and he's like, I need a dome, then that's probably coming too. So they definitely are going to acquiesce to their franchise quarterback. But last week for me on my money line, I should have went with my gut. I was fighting between the Chiefs and Packers and the Seahawks and Cowboys. I went ahead with the Seahawks and Cowboys, and I was feeling good the entire game. I was feeling really good.
Balling.
Like you said, to people's point, like the defense was balling. They were bothering Dak. The offense was scoring. DK had like 4 catches for 222 yards. It felt like he was just going off. Like Tyler Lockett catching passes on the sideline, but Dallas ended up pulling out at the end, and I was just sick when I saw the Chiefs and Packers score. I was like, God, like I cannot believe the Packers ended up beating the Chiefs at home, that was my whole thing, is the Packers being at home.
Yeah.
Looking at their record, they're fighting for a playoff spot and they're in the playoffs right now. So it's like there's probably a little bit more incentive for them to win that game. And Jordan Love's just kind of been slowly but surely going up on his arc.
Thanksgiving, baby. He's looking kind of nice, man.
I kind of wish I would have picked that one. So I missed that one. But like I said, if you're watching this podcast, I do put it in the show notes of which one I'm going with. But if you're actually watching it all the way through, maybe you're like, I want to go against this guy. Yeah, bet the other one. It's like, this guy's missing on this one. Let me bet the other way, and maybe I'll win some money. So you got to listen to the podcast to figure out which one's the bet. But this week, like I said, there's a slate of ones. I didn't find really a lot of intriguing ones. A lot of them were like in the plus 180s and stuff like that. So I like to always go into plus territory. And looking at a team who was right now, I think, sitting 8th in the NFC playoff picture, which is out. They've won 2 games. That game against the Browns last week with the Rams. I know it's the Browns. They don't have a quarterback, but that was pretty dominating win considering the defense they were going against. I like how they got a lot of their pieces back. They're going to be going across the country again this week to go play the Ravens, coming off a bye, which is very scary because when you're getting teams off the bye, that means they were able to game plan for you for about 2 to 3 weeks. But I think while both teams really need this game, because the Ravens really can't give up any room, because even though they're above the Chiefs, they're tied with the Dolphins, and winning this game, and I don't know who Miami has this week, but winning this game it would definitely cushion them and make it have a decent cushion between the Chiefs, but you need to stay pace with the Dolphins. So I think they're going to be focused and locked in. But I think the Rams are going to be a little bit more desperate. They definitely need this game, because if you look at the bottom of that NFC playoff picture, like 6-6 Vikings, 6-6 Packers, 6-6 Rams, 6-6 Seahawks. And then you got like the 5-7 Buccaneers, 5-7 Saints. But like it's nip and tuck. So there is and that's why I was very confident at the time about the Seahawks. Like they definitely need this game, because now look at you. They're still in the playoff picture, but they don't act right. They could fall right out, and you got to basically it's like win or go home for the rest of the season in that bottom of the NFC playoff picture. So I think the Rams, man, they've kind of gotten second life. They have their 2 stud receivers, even though Cooper Kupp's been kind of, I don't know if he's injured or he kind of seems.
He's not the same. He's not the same.
Yeah, he kind of looks. He looks like he needs maybe a week or 2 off. He don't look right. But you got Puka, got Higbee. Kyron Williams is not only a fantasy monster, he's just a monster, period, dude. Like, he's a workhorse.
Yeah.
They're going to need to do that.
They use him as a 3-down back because they use him in the pass catching game like a lot. And he's Sean McVay found his RB because he's riding him. Like,
yeah. And that's what he does too. Once he finds a running back, he's gonna pretty much use him as he's solely 35, 38 carries. Like, that's just what he does. So I think they're gonna probably rely on him, get the ball to Puka, Matt Stafford do what he does. Like you said, the Ravens offense is not as explosive. Now that defense is something serious, but I just think desperation wise, the Rams are going to be, I think, a 7.5 point favor, or the 7.5 point underdogs. It is cross country, which makes me nervous, but the odds are plus 290. So those were juicy to me with the team that's desperate. They were kind of similar. I think the Seahawks last week, I had them at like 260 and almost cashed in on that. So, like I said, I think the Rams are going to be desperate. They're going to cross country. I'm not sure what time the game is, but they need this game because you drop this game, you're kind of considering yourself as a outsider when it comes to the playoffs. And if the Ravens were to lose this one, depending on what the Chiefs do and what the Dolphins do, you're kind of still in the hunt for the 1 or 2 seed. You're not all the way out of it, and I'm not sure what the Ravens' schedule is after this. But like I said, I like picking those odds that are in that 262. I always say plus 190, but I've been jumping up a little bit and getting to the close to 300 because some of those games it's just
some of your predictions, juicy, man.
Yeah,
you got underdog. You got upset territory. You just call this upset Tyson, dude.
I love getting in that, and like I say, the reason why I feel so confident with these picks is because I started off so good. Like if I was like, if my record was reversed like 3-7, I would be a little bit more cautious because I feel like I'd be doing a disservice. But if you've been following my track, you're sitting pretty decent in the money. So it's like you got games to play with. So I'm thinking like 7.5. You got Matt Stafford. You got weapons on the outside. Same thing I was thinking with the Seahawks. Gino actually played really well that game.
$5,000 laying
so
around.
It's like,
you got $5,000 laying around. Just
these bets now that I'm doing. Like I said, now that I have a cushion, these are people who are 6-figure earners who they invest their money well. They have so much cash. They have a room of cash that's falling out of briefcases. Yeah, and speak of the devil, we have him on the podcast right now. Yeah, that guy. If he wants to spend it, he's got it. Yeah, he can just spend it.
Just throw like 500 on one of Sean's long.
Not gonna lie, I do one time wanted to say fuck it, $500 on a bet.
Why not?
You should have did it on the last couple ones. Like
done $50 and I get such a high. Man, if it was 500, man, I might have a heart attack, man.
Jeez, dude, that's like, come on, dude, that's like
Jesus.
That's like 2 nice dates in New York City, man. That's like 2 nice dates in New York City, man.
That's kind of true, man. I had a lobster date last week, man.
There you go, man. So there you go. Disposable income, Sean. Disposable income.
Yeah, just a little bit. Like you said, always gamble responsibly. But yeah, I'm feeling the Rams this week, man. Feeling the Rams this week. So hopefully we get back on the winning track because, like I said, that Seahawks one, I thought I had that one. So
you almost did, man. The
Packers
one,
I was.
I was just thinking the whole time. I was like, God damn. He's on 6.5.
Let me go with my instinct.
I was like, sheesh.
I can't remember what the odds were on that. I need to go back and look, but the odds were like really good on that.
I think it was like plus 290.
It was plus 2.
Yeah, it was up there.
Plus,
it was up there.
6.5, like that's kind of
even at home, yeah.
Yeah, even at home.
Yeah. I don't know, but with this podcast, like I said, football, we're winding down. Like I said, it's the end of the playoffs for fantasy, or it's the start of the playoffs for fantasy, and the real playoffs in the NFL is coming up real soon. So make sure you tune in to us on bullheaded_pod. Like I said, it is December, so we will be getting into NBA talk, the in-season tournament. Side note, I was skeptical, but it's pretty cool, man.
It kind of worked.
The games are intense. They're intense.
I don't know if you guys saw, but the Pacers-Celtics game was awesome. That game,
I watched that one.
It legitimately felt like a playoff game. Like the feeling, like Tyrese
money on the line.
Tyrese Halliburton hit some of these
triple-double, man. We're gonna have a topic. We're gonna have a topic.
Patrick Williams, man. Every time I see Tyrese, man, I get a little mad. Like this is gonna be the whole time. I'm like, this dude is taking these 30-foot threes with a hand in the face and just splashing it with the ugly ass.
The best
part, he has a hit shot.
Dude, and it goes in.
He's got Buddy
40-90 guy with 10 assists.
Yeah.
And we took Flower Boy.
We're gonna have a topic just of like a free-for-all type topic coming up soon with the NBA, and we're just gonna talk like what is your. It don't even matter like what the standings are. Just what is your personal interesting storyline you're
I don't know if
following?
you guys heard this stat right now, but Nikola Jokic is averaging he has the most total points, total rebounds, and total assists in the NBA right now. First time in NBA history as of this period.
That's insane.
He has the most points, rebounds, and assists in the league right now.
And it almost feels like because of who he is, it doesn't even feel like that's a major storyline because of what everything, so much stuff that's going on. Yeah, I guess that's the benefit or the bad part of being like the reigning champion, and you're kind of just an afterthought. Because I mean, I've seen Nikola Jokic put up crazy stats because I'm looking at box scores, but like you don't hear a lot of talk about it, and it's probably his personality too. But like, there's so much stuff going on in the NBA right now. Like you said, if you're watching the podcast religiously, you got to understand it's football first, but NBA stuff will be coming up, and we're gonna have and probably maybe next week we'll probably because I know the in-season tournament it's in the semifinals I think right now. I think it's semifinals.
They have the Final Four, so they're gonna be going to Vegas right now. So
so we're definitely gonna be getting that talk. But like I said, Bullheaded_pod on Instagram, TikTok Bullheaded864, Quantro Knows on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts is where you can listen to us. And for me, Zoo, and Peepers, we are.